Hey, what is going on, everybody? We are back with part 3 of our exhaust build. And you can see right there, we have the X pipe and it is finished and it's welded on to some more tubing that leads to some pie cuts, which are some custom bends that are going to lead and open up this exhaust system into the left and right banks, I guess you could say, of the car. So, like the passenger side and the driver's side of the car. And you can see right there, I have the two bars welded on for the most part. And you can see right there, the X pipe is nice and finished. So this is the heart and soul, once again, of this build. So now what we're going to do is we're going to weld this piece, which is a 45, onto the pie cuts at the end. And you can see I have some extended tubing right there welded onto this because I just needed a little bit extra length. But we're going to be talking about back purging. And you can see right there that I have these silicone plugs. And how they work is you take a silicone plug, right? And you attach one end to one side of the exhaust pipe, or the tubing that you're going to be welding, and then you take another end and you attach it to that side of the tubing that you're going to be welding. And the idea is that it's going to fill in the tube with argon, and that's how you get your protection. Now, argon is expensive, and if you have a small tank like a 40 cubic foot or an 80 cubic foot, then you really don't want to be using your argon to back purge because you can run out of it really quickly. So now you can see here I have this aluminum tube, and I got to give a shout out to Otaku Racing. I'll put a link down to their channel in the description below, but they turned that tube for me on a lathe so that it would fit perfectly, or almost perfectly, into the tube. And so what this does is that it blocks the oxygen so that I can weld the tube without the stainless sugaring. And it's a very simple technique. I was kind of experimenting with it to see if it would work, and it actually turned out really great. So it's a very effective way to weld stainless without getting any sugaring or anything like that. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about solar flux again. So this is solar flux, and it's really good. You just mix it up into a paste, and then you brush it onto the inside of where you're going to be welding. So wherever the weld kind of butts up together, the seam, you brush it on right there. And then you're going to weld on the outside, and the solar flux just acts as like a protectant, the same way that argon protects the stainless. It just eliminates the oxygen. But the only thing is it can be messy. It can be, the powder kind of flies everywhere once it dries. Now, you can see here, solar flux is really good if you have a large setup like this, because, you're going to have to back purge a lot and everything like that. And that's where solar flux really shines, because then you're just using powder. And that a little bit of powder, that little can right there off to your right, you see, that little can will last you a long time. I mean, a really long time. So, it's a good investment if you have, an 80 cubic foot or smaller. However, if you want to go down the back purge method, then, I highly recommend you purchase some silicone plugs. And the silicone plugs, you don't have to buy a purge kit, because purge kits can be quite expensive, and they're almost like buying tap and die kits. You only use like a few of the pieces, and then the rest just kind of sit. So like, I highly recommend to buy your plugs, your silicone plugs, individually, and they're not even like listed as back purge plugs. They're just like silicone plugs that you can just use to kind of just seal stuff up, just, for just miscellaneous reasons. And then you can see right there, I just bought some barb fittings, some hose fittings, and then just cut a little hole out and plugged them in. And so that small one is going to be the exit valve, because you need some sort of relief valve for your back purge. Otherwise, the argon will start blowing out through the welds and it'll mess up your welding. So you can see here I bought a pack of 5, and that's really great because you can see on this exhaust system I have 4 openings. I got like 2 here, right? And then I have 2 on the end. So buying a pack, I bought that pack of 5 for like $20. And then the hose fittings was, another $8. So it was like $30 for the whole back purge kit that I put together, that I built. And so that's what I recommend, is that just buy some common sizes. And the most common sizes you're going to buy are going to be like your 2-inch, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 3-inch, And, you can, put all of that together for, less than $100. And then you have like pretty much a whole kit. And you're good to go. So you can see here, I got the silicone plugs, and they're heat resistant. Silicone in general, is going to be like a heat resistant material. So the marketing that you might see on like those aftermarket back purge kits, they say high temp. Silicone, it's going to be high temp. So that's something good to know. And you can just get the plugs and start going to work, and it's great. So that's what I recommend, is to just build your own kit. I'll put a link down below where you can get these silicone plugs and then just kind of make them yourself. So now we're going to start welding. I'm going to show you how that's going to work. All right, so you can see here we have our plugs in place. We have our exit valve right there, and then that silicone tube is what's going to be feeding the argon into the pipe like this. So everything's nice and tight. You can see that it's not going to fall out easily, so it's a nice airtight seal. And then we have the small opening on the left side, which is going to ensure that the argon doesn't, start coming out of the seams and stuff like that. So we're just going to start welding and everything like that. And once again, when I'm welding, this is just going to be a fusion weld, and if I need to add any, filler wire, I will. But again, just taking my time, going slow. And you can see here's another technique that I use, where I bought some Schedule 80 pipe, some Schedule 80 aluminum pipe, and I cut it in half. And anyway, it's a good chill block. And you can see that it really helps on thin tubing, thin wall stainless, because stainless, the main thing with stainless is you're really trying to like fight the heat. The heat is it's like a cat and mouse game that you're playing with stainless, and you want to escape the heat or keep the heat low as much as possible, so that you get a good weld. And one way to do that is to add chill blocks, and aluminum does a good job at soaking up heat. And that's one way that I like to kind of soak the heat up, is just put like a chill bar over it, and then it just does a really good job. So you can see right there, that's how I kind of like manipulate my chill bars so that I can really manage that heat and everything like that. So again, just gonna take my time, do short bursts, and we're all done. So you can see there on the inside, that's what back purging looks like. So, if you were to compare it to like what the solar flux looks like, you can see that this is a lot cleaner. It's a lot nicer. And this is just, so in terms of aesthetics, this, a client could be, they could want a back purge for this reason. If it's sanitary, you definitely want to use argon back purge. So you can see the inside welds look just like the outside welds. You know, they're very similar. There's no sugaring, so there's no warts or crystals that are popping up. So you can see it just looks really nice, really clean, and that's what argon back purging can do for your welds on stainless steel. You don't have to do this on mild steel, but for stainless steel and titanium, you're gonna have to do this. And so this is the outside of the weld, and you can see it's a nice weld. It looks very similar to the inside, and that's the whole point, is to have a nice clean weld on both sides. And that's what argon does, because the back purging is pushing all of the oxygen out of the tubing, because oxygen is what causes the stainless to react, or stainless reacts to oxygen. And so when you back purge, you're eliminating all that oxygen and offering the protection. So, all right, so now we are done, and you can see that the pipe is good to go. Everything's welded, everything's nice. You can see here, this is the chill bar that I used. And again, I just cut the Schedule 80 pipe in half, and then I can kind of manipulate it however I want, you know. So I can, you know, put it like this or kind of offset it. And if I even wanted to, I could cut it in half and make little smaller pieces. So that's something that's nice. And you can see I'm just kind of organizing stuff. But now I want to talk about the V-band. And that's going to lead to our next video, because this is what I like to use for all of my connecting joints. My flanges, you know, I don't really use flanges. I use V-bands. And the company that I use, I'll talk about in the next video. It's really good. And the design method is just, in my opinion, it's the way to go. So that's going to be in our next video. And until then, you know, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. You know, your support really means a lot to me. If you like this video, if you like this content, please leave a like button. Please comment, subscribe, and I'll see everybody in the next video.